All right, well, good evening, everybody. Sorry for the little delay to start festivities here tonight. So at this time, if you're able to rise, please do so for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, well, welcome to a very fun evening for all of us. Tonight's a milestone for those individuals who have earned their tenure. Under New York State law, public school teachers must serve a probationary period of 4 years and a day from the date of their appointment to a position. During that period, the teachers are evaluated, mentored, and coached as they hone their skills as an educator. School districts don't give people tenure. Teachers earn their tenure by developing their skills and ability. This is not an easy task. Congratulations to everyone that we are honoring tonight. So at this time, those that we are celebrating, if you would, one by one, please, head to the podium, state your name, your tenure area, introduce all the special people that you have with you this evening, and then mosey on up here because we have something for everybody. So it's up to you who wants to go first.
Hello, I'm Melissa Paratori. I teach reading at Lincoln, so I'm in remedial reading. And I brought my son Dominic, my other son Carson, and my husband Dominic.
Hi, my name is Acre Scott. I teach special education at the elementary level, and I'm here with my fiance, James.
Well, you probably can help quicker for everybody. I'm sorry. They weren't in alphabetical order. Oh. No, don't go anywhere. I may miss it. So you can go chat. Sorry about that. Congratulations.
Hi, my name is Laura Daly. I teach reading at SAC, so elementary, and I'm here with my husband, Brett.
Hello, I'm Heather Sawicki, and I'm here. I teach special education here at the middle school, and I'm here with my husband Chris and my daughter Adele.
Hi, I'm Mackenzie LaCrosse Brissette. I'm a teacher assistant at the high school, and I'm here with my daughter Isla and my boyfriend Timmy.
Hi, I'm Shayna Rose. I teach 3rd grade at Glen Warden, and I'm here with my husband Wyatt.
join me in another round of applause for all of our tenured. We'll now take a short break for some refreshments that are over there and to mingle. All right, welcome back. So at this time, we will open up the first hearing and privilege of the floor. If anyone would like to address the board, just please state your name, address, adhere to policy 1230, and our 5-minute policy as well. All right, we'll close the first hearing and privilege of the floor. Remind everybody that we will have one towards the end of the meeting. At this time, we will turn it over to Superintendent Schwartz.
Would like to engage you in a discussion about potential board goals and then also about the Butte facility. So we can do them in this order, or we can do one in front of the other, do the Butte one first. What's folks' pleasures?
Yeah, probably the Butte first. Get the easy one out of the way.
The what first?
Butte and Doll.
Oh, gotcha.
So Drew has provided you some additional information. We've also included the two articles that ran in the Gazette, the editorial and the other article. Drew, would you like to speak to your memo at all at this point?
Sure. Can I hand out the cost
Please
of
do.
this? Do you want to pass it? So on the Buchendall building that sits within the transportation facility, the architects had worked with me on giving us basically the best approach to retrofitting the transportation facility to accommodate the electrical vehicles, the charging stations, the transformer, and the related conduit to both the building and the charging stations. That process would require the removal or demolition for about $250,000 of the Buchendall building, which has been decommissioned for at least the last 17 years and hasn't been used for at least the last 20, 25 years. I also provided in that memo the kind of the pathway to, if the board approved moving forward with an application to the Historical Society. The board has to approve that since you're the owners of the building. The application would take anywhere from 6 months to a year to review. If and such it is approved, then we get on the registry. We must make the necessary improvements to have a certificate of occupancy and maintain it going forward. So any repairs and maintenance, infrastructure improvements must be maintained over the life of it if you get on that registry. So in front of you is something I've been working on with the architects for the last 4 to 6 weeks, is what it would cost to bring that up to, let's say, code. It's about $3.5 million, and that does not include architectural, engineering, and other incidentals. These are the hard construction costs. You can see the biggest costs are like the roof, the elevator, windows. Those are the big cost drivers there. In that there'd be no aid attached to these renovations. Every $350,000 is approximately 1 point on the taxes, so the taxes would increase by 10% on top of whatever else we got going on with the general fund. So that's the research and work that I've been doing on this for the past month or so.
Thank you, Drew.
You're welcome.
Drew,
You're welcome.
comments?
I guess I misunderstood. Is there a reason, if we were to go forward, that it can't just be standing there as a structure? I mean, why does it have to have plumbing and water and elevators? And I thought what Pam was getting at was it's just a really nice building to look at. So are all these things?
It doesn't have a certificate of occupancy right now, and therefore, if you go on the historical registry, you have to have a certificate of occupancy. It has to be up to code.
Okay. Even if nobody's occupying it, that's just the...
Correct.
Okay.
I have some questions and comments. So Drew, you're saying just to bring it up to code, we're talking almost $3.5 million. And that has to happen before we do any historical preservation?
No. if we go through the process, the board approves going forward with the process, and then it gets approved, we have to make these.
You have to, we're essentially promising we're gonna do this.
Correct.
Okay. So I wanna thank you for the detailed work you've done on this in the memo.
You're welcome.
I know it's taken extra time, and in doing that, you said you had to speak to the architect, you had to speak to our attorneys, and all of that, to me, we're already, maybe it may not be a lot, but we're already starting to expend money on an issue that we weren't going to necessarily address in the first place. So I guess I'm concerned that we're already starting to expend money on this for something that hasn't been addressed for literally decades. Pam, I know you brought this up, so I do have a couple questions for you. How long have you been on the board?
This is year 29.
Okay. Did it come up at all during any of this to work on this at all prior?
We have worked on it. We have done some work back in the 2000s somewhere. And we did have, it was used for storage. We had it all cleaned out. We started to think about what we could use it for, and then it kind of fell through the cracks. And you know, that's the board's fault, and I'll take part of the responsibility for that, because we never should have let it get to this point. But the fact remains that it is at this point where the fact we need to decide whether or not we're going to tear it down or we're going to try and save it. And at the last board meeting that unfortunately you were not at, we talked about it, and the board agreed that we wanted Susan and Drew to look into this information that they've gotten us at this point, so that we know where we stand and what the situation actually is.
Okay, and I appreciate that. I want to make sure that when I'm asking these questions and I'm saying what I'm about to say, that I've always advocated for preserving history and doing what we can to maintain it. But I'm not sure that we should be maintaining a building that hasn't been remediated for literally decades, hasn't been used for decades, when it's at the expense of our children and at the expense of our taxpayers. I believe Susan even talked about the previous meeting when we had the discussion about the project, that you had said something when you first started here that you thought it would be nice to use for the district, and it was found even then. Was that back in 2005? Am I remembering that correctly? That was figured even then that was not a possibility. So I don't understand why, if we're so concerned about this building, why we let it sit in disrepair for decades, and now we're addressing it when we're already in a really precarious, tenuous financial situation, trying to figure out how to fund these state-mandated buses that's being forced on us. And now we're trying to see if we can save a building, which at the very least is going to cost us $3.5 billion. I know Drew and the contractors and the architect have been working so hard on the bus issue to try to save as much money for our district as we can by applying for multiple grants, by figuring out low construction costs, figuring out how to use the property we already have in our possession so we don't have to buy more property. So to do all those things while making sure our students are still safe. So this mandate alone is going to cost our taxpayers money that we're going to have to spend because it's a state mandate. I don't know if we now want to add costs on it to save a building that nobody has wanted to, or nobody has saved for such a long time. I just remember even last year for our budget, we already had to ask our citizens to increase their tax just so we could keep things at a status quo. And I know Susan and Drew worked very hard to keep it at a status quo, but it still cost our taxpayers more money. So now to say we're concerned about what's happening in 2027 to now add a building to it, I'm not sure is the way to go. And I'm not a fan of coming to people with a problem and not providing a recommendation for a solution, and I feel like that's what happened here. We started working on the bus issue, something that we don't have a choice on, that we have to do, and now we are we're being asked to address a building that nobody's addressed for an extremely long time. And asking Drew, asking our contractors, asking our attorneys, because we have to go through the historical preservation process, to figure out ways to add that to the issue. I think at this point in time especially, is a huge issue. So for me, as much as it bothers me and upsets me to lose any piece of history, I care more about spending money on our students' educational needs. I'm more concerned about our students' mental health and what we can do to help with that, which costs money. And I'm more concerned about making sure our taxpayers are not forced to pay more than what is absolutely necessary. So I guess my question is to the board, and you don't have to answer, but I don't know if we have $3.5 million to be spending on this when we're already not sure how much we're going to have to expend on the EV bus situation.
Well, I think at this point, at least we have a better idea of what's going on and what is required. I did not realize we would have to bring this whole thing up to code and that kind of thing to put it on the historical registry. I saw a building which is different than any other building in the Scotia-Glenville area, and I was hoping that there might be some way that we could keep it. And I wanted, if we didn't look into it now, the building would be gone. The architects would demolish it, and we would never have a chance to consider whether or not this is something that should be saved. If we're going to do it, then I mean, it's a whole lot of work, and I know it, and it's a whole lot of stuff because we would have to go, I'm sure, to the community with a proposition about saving it, because I don't believe this is something that we could just decide to spend the money on and do. It would have to go before the public and whatever. And now we know the information, so now we can decide, make a logical, informed decision as to whether or not this building is worth saving.
And I'm where Kimberly is right now. You know, it's not just almost $3.5 million. It's going to be, what did SEI say, $3.6 million just for the project over there, on top of finding real estate that we hope makes logistical sense like the current footprint does. Respect to the building and the historical value to it, it just doesn't make logical sense. If we're going to spend this much money, as Kimberly said, we're going to spend it on the children, on the staff, the facilities. Unfortunately, we're not a historical society, and I have a hard time chewing that. It's sad to see things like that go, but to spend that much money and ask so much of our taxpayers, I can't be in line with that.
Yeah, I think the reason that it came up this time on a small scale is like that favorite box of old memories that you have sitting in the garage until it's time to clean the garage out, and then you get sentimental and want to keep all that stuff. It just sits there and no one does anything until it's time to throw that box away. And it's like, oh my, what are we doing? We're going to knock this building down. To me, this made zero sense to investigate this, knowing what that building does and what it hasn't done in such a long time. Unfortunately, with the mandates that we have in the state that we live in right now, we have bigger concerns that we have to focus on than this building that sat there for a very long time, 30 years with the Board of Education that really didn't do anything about it. So, yeah, I agree 1,000%.
Yeah, I don't know what happened to it either, but there were also committees formed before my time that were going to look at it and to do something and whatever, and that kind of fell on the board, which is why I think we originally looked at what to do with it and whatever, and started to do something. I wish we hadn't let it drop. But again, it always comes down to, well, let's put the money for the kids, which is the right thing to do. You know, let's try and save the taxpayers money and stuff, and we just never got to a point. Which back in that day, when we could do pretty much what we wanted, we thought maybe we would be able to do it, but things have changed. Things financially are not the same as they were. It's too bad we can't move it somewhere or do something with it just to have it for people to be able to see. But I don't see a whole lot of options between spending this kind of money and knocking it down.
Yeah, I can't justify a 10% tax increase over educational tax increase for a building. I can't. You know, I look at the community and where we sit with the community, and you've got village taxes and, you know, county taxes and town taxes and now school taxes, and then we're going to say, we want to reserve this building, can you give us 10% more? I don't think that we can do that, especially at the expense of our educational groupings that we'd like to have. Like, I would love to put 10% taxes towards more educational programs and teachers than towards the building. I think it's the right sit for that. I can't ask my community for 10%.
Well, personally, I'm really glad that we looked into it, that we saw what it was going to be.
Now we have
what
the
it was gonna
numbers.
be. And now we can make, as I said, now we can make a good decision about what we want to do.
Yeah.
Drew, do we know, hypothetically, if this becomes a fruition, like we do this, hypothetically, how would that affect the project that the SEI gave us last time for the buses? Do we know that yet or no?
Probably have to pursue using the wetlands, the area around there, working with the Army Corps of Engineers and purchasing land somewhere else to give them those wetlands. Because whenever you take wetlands, you got to exchange something for it. So we didn't go that way because it was costly to get into the Army Corps of Engineers and the wetlands. We didn't do it. So I'd have to go back to the drawing board. My objective is to bring to Susan and the board in November a retrofit of that facility at no additional taxes based on the building aid we get, the incentives from New York State School Bus Initiative, and our reserves that we set aside. That's the objective. Yes, it's going to cost taxes, but no additional taxes because we've already put this money aside and we could get the building aid. And the voters will decide because it's going to have to be a proposition because we'd have to borrow the money first. But the way that I had the architects work with me was to bring you something that would be minimal impact on the taxes, use the existing footprint of that structure, but we need to demolish that building to put that transformer in, run the conduit, and those run them to the charging stations. I've been here for the 2011 capital project, 2015, 2018, 2021, and now the upcoming one, and never has the Buchendall renovations ever come up. And I remember everything. Test me on it.
I wasn't here.
I don't doubt. Be careful what you wish for.
And I've sat through committees too. Never has it come up to put money into it. I'm not saying it's not a good or bad idea. I just have put the time in, invested time in. Never have I had a Board of Education ask for Buchendall to be in a capital project going before the voters. And that's just a fact.
I agree with you 100%. I mean, unfortunately, we're in a position where, I guess, lack of better words, there's a casualty, and that's the building. We have to use that building space to satisfy the state mandate. So, so I agree with you 100%. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I agree too. It's everything. I grew up just up the road from that house, and so there's a house on the opposite side of the street that is the exact same architecture. I don't know if that building was originally part of that property because we call it the mansion, and then there are all these outbuildings, and they're all that architecture. And then just if you look just right across the street is the Buchendall building. I guess it doesn't really matter, but the one thought I have in the back of my mind is that we start this and we demolish the building, and then because this EV mandate is so controversial that maybe there'll be some backpedaling at some point and it gets put on hold, and then we've knocked down this building and it's 5 years and just kidding, we're not really doing electric buses, or there's legislature pending or something. It's, again, it doesn't affect tonight's conversation, but it's just something that when I think about it, that's what comes to my mind. But it's too much money.
So now we move on to our discussion of our potential board goals for 24-25. Whoever would like to start.
I'd like to, if I could, answer a little bit of what Emily's question was about the goals that are in our policy manual and these goals. The goals that are in our policies are just a general overview of what things the board should be thinking about doing and where they should be putting their efforts. These the goals that we're doing now are specific goals with SMART goals, with measurable and that type of thing, that need to fall in line with those policies that are listed in the policy, in our policy manual. But they're different in the way that they're smaller and specific of what this year we're gonna concentrate on in that area. Does that explain it a little bit better?
Yeah, I think it's misplaced where it is on the website, because if you go to the website and you type in goals, that's what comes up. And so if somebody were searching for our annual goals, by keyword search, they wouldn't find them.
Yeah, well, annual goals aren't policy, they're just.
I understand. Well, I don't think any goals are policy. I just don't know why it's really listed as it's minutia.
No, well, we can change that this year because
Right.
in previous years, when you clicked on the Board of Education and it told you what it was, there used to be a section right on there that said Board of Education Goals 24, 25. So we can make sure that that's on there.
I guess in my long convoluted email, I was just saying that if you look at those general goals, they're fantastic, and that I think we should at some point look back at those and maybe use those to shape, because I don't think that we're doing a fantastic job of really following those if those are the general goals. I think that there's room for improvement in that area. But there's a lot of what we said that ties into that, so. But I can talk about it all night and I won't.
But I do agree with you, Emily. I think goals and policies are two different things, and I'm not sure why we have goals as a policy.
Yeah, maybe you could just say, policy is that, I'll think about it later, never mind. If there's a policy that we must have.
Well, yeah, it could have a policy
Continuous
that
goals.
each school year that the Board of Education sets at minimum
Right.
2, maximum 4, something like that. 2, right?
But we,
Yeah, that could be the policy.
almost everybody said in their specific goals, they mentioned terms like gaining input from the community. And most of those general goals are focus on that, to ascertain the community's opinions and desires with respect to the operations of the school system and incorporate it into its actions. I think that's just something to keep in mind, something that we could focus on in general.
I would like to recommend that one of our goals be this year to create a new policy to have weighted grades apply for AP and honors classes. I would like to actually see if we could create that policy before the end of this school year, so our current seniors who have worked extremely hard in extremely challenging classes can take advantage of it. In New York State, the Department of Education allows each individual school district to decide whether to assign weighted grades to AP, honors, and other high-level courses. And as it would be done through policy, that is actually one of the things the Board of Ed can do, is to create that policy. As you guys know, I provided different policies from other districts in New York, and based on my review of those, it seems like the weighted grades are relatively the same, with the same degree of weight, and there's many New York State school districts that have had these policies for a while now. Like Cohoes has had this policy since 2017, Potsdam since at least 2020, Oyster Bay since at least 2019, just to name a few. And I couldn't find how many of all our New York State districts have weighted grades, but I found what I thought was interesting is that for the 2018-2019 school year, over 80% of all the New York City school districts already had weighted grades. So I think it's a possible approach to create weighted grade policy for our students. I feel like in our district, and I believe it, that we want our students to excel to the best of their ability, but I don't think we're giving them a benefit for going above and beyond. In my opinion, currently without these weighted grades, our students are being hurt by taking advanced classes and having a much harder and more workloaded class. They are required to do schoolwork in the summer when those in non-honors and non-AP classes don't have to do so. But what concerns me even more is that a student who takes a much more difficult course load through APs and through honors classes and don't have the benefit of weighted grades, they can have a lower GPA and a class rank than a student who has non-honors or APs classes. We've seen this, and I know it's such an issue because I've had parents come to me and tell me that guidance counselors have recommended to some students to take a non-honors class because they don't have the benefit of weighted grades. So there's a risk of getting a lesser grade than they would if they just took the non-honors class. And frankly, I understand that logic. These lower class ranks are an issue for our honors students as they lose out on applying for many scholarships which require that students must be in a top 10% of the class. For example, there's a statewide New York State STEM scholarship which actually provides a full scholarship. However, in order to even apply, the student has to be in the top 10% of their class. So this doesn't matter if the student comes from a school district with a weighted grade or not. But if our AP and our honor students in our district don't have weighted grades, they're competing against students from New York State districts who do have weighted grades. So our student could actually have the exact same grade as a student in a class as a student, which allows weighted grades, but they now can't apply for that same scholarship because they don't have the weighted grade in order to boost their GPA to be in a higher standard. To me, by not allowing our students these weighted grades, we're putting our own students to a disadvantage. And really, it's an implication that our students should take non-honors classes in an attempt to get a better grade because we're not incentivizing them to take the honors and AP classes with weighted grades. We're a district where our students heavily rely on and need scholarships for college. I think we as a school district should be giving them every opportunity and advantage to be able to attain them. But right now, we're putting them at a disadvantage because they are competing against students from school districts who have that benefit of weighted grades. I think this is something the school district should have done a long time ago, and I don't think we should delay any longer. So my goal recommendation is not only to look into it, but to draft it and put it to a vote before the end of the school year. Thank you.
Well, I think policy is one of the things I think we should still keep as one of our goals, which would work with yours, right? Writing a policy, but we don't typically write the policies, they would come to us for approval. So policy was one of that, I think we still have steps that we need to finish on that, and I'd like to have just, for the time frame for that, I think that we should be able to finish that policy by the end of the year and be able to move on to something different next year so that we can, Pam and I can wrap that up and move on to a new goal for next year. Although policies are always changing, I think that by the end of the year we can have it all done and we can move on from that. So just one more year of policy. Mental health, we know, is one of my huge concerns as a district, and I would like to see that as one of our goals. One of the things, you know, I think we're moving in the right direction with some of the different classes that we're offering. Anxiety is one of the things that is the hidden mental health that has been popping up. We've seen our students for the last 2 years go to college and they're coming home because of the anxiety to make the grade. So I kind of would like to see, you know, as a board, if we could come up with maybe some different solutions and work with Ms. Arquette and Susan on different programs that we can do for these students who are struggling or going home from school all the time because of their anxiety, they're not making the grade. And anxiety now is coming up along with depression on one of our suicide rates for students. So that's kind of a thing that I would like to see as one of our goals. The other one is creative pathways for education. We're always pushing for us to send kids to college all the time. And are we pushing enough for our kids to go into the trades? Are we bringing the trades into our students? We have many, many companies in trades in the area that would love to have our high school students, when they graduate, go and work with them. So as a board, as a goal, can we think of different pathways for graduation to increase our graduation rates? Can we work together as a team with our administrators to say, what kind of programs do we offer? Are we attractive? Are we getting our graduation rate up with students who might want to be in the trade? So those are my three main things: was different educational pathways, mental health, and how are we serving our students with anxiety, and one more year of policy. Now the other two I put on my SMART goal is a 5-year goal. It's not something that we can do tomorrow. It's not something that we can do next year. That is a 5-year STEP program, but I think for policy I did put the end of this year to be done with that goal.
Yeah, and to be more specific on the policy, we need to finish up the 4,000s through the 6,000s. And to make sure that the work we've already done gets put into the system.
So it means lots of coffee dates this year to get that goal done in a year.
I'm sorry?
Lots of coffee dates for you and I this year to get that done in a year. I think we spent a couple years on it, and I think we can end that this year.
Well, one of your goals, Karnjet, was also the pathways, right?
Yeah,
Right.
and I'm piggyback off of Kim,
Yep.
is the trade applications, find better avenues for the kids, no more visibility of other companies out there available to them. They don't want to go to college for whatever reason, or just do high school and then right to a trade.
And that can be everything. That can be anywhere from
Oh, anywhere, yeah.
beauticians and cooks all the way up to construction. It can be
Correct.
anything.
Correct.
I know you and I have talked about, Ken, about at the very least a job fair. We should definitely be having a job fair at the school, just like we have the college fairs around in the area. I think that's a definite focus.
One more.
Keep going. All right. Sorry, we segued.
The other one was, the second one was diversity of culture responsive and asset-based supports. I think we're kind of working on that a little bit in the DEI program. So we want to keep it going. I know we kind of have a standstill because of summer ending and all that, school starting, so kind of keep that going, make sure we don't just stop or meet. What were we saying, every other month, I think? And which group is meeting soon? I'm sorry.
Our group is going to meet every month.
Correct.
And Rick's group will eventually sunset. They have specific activities they're going to work on. But yes, we will be continuing that work this year.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
So it was over the email traffic, I know was discussing bringing back any goals that we didn't achieve. Absolutely agree with that and hold ourselves accountable that we are achieving these every year. But that said, what I brought, the strongest I feel is examining decrease in enrollment and in the area. It's affecting us. Most districts it seems to be affecting. And I kind of feel like we're becoming a little bit, it's like the Austin Powers movie where the guy's like a mile away from the steamroller and he's screaming at it coming and it's like a mile away. Just run away, do something about it. He doesn't. I feel like it's a little bit of that. I'm hearing it from the outside in as a parent last year. I'm hearing Susan bring it up. I'm hearing Drew bring it up. And it's worrisome. What are we doing right now, today, to put policies in place, to put strategies in place, see what other districts are experiencing, that had to make that transition, look at successful districts that aren't experiencing any enrollment. What are they doing? What do they have that we don't have that we could do easily? So I feel like it would be mistaken if we didn't at least seriously look at that in some shape or fashion as a goal for us as a board, because it feels very much that it's coming our way. And what are we prepared for this? And what are we going to do? With that, with the UPK bringing in, looking at the feasibility of a UPK or Universal Pre-K program, I was disappointed last year when I saw when the grants went out that we didn't put one in. It makes sense. We don't have a program. But why? When I look at the districts that surround us, like Niskayuna, South Colony, I looked at what do they have we don't, and I see a UPK program. And initially when I started going down the rabbit hole, I thought, well gosh, it's got to be 100 students, 150 students. I think Niskayuna is 52. I think South Colony is larger, maybe in the 60s or 70s. There's money out there. It could be an attractive feature. It brings equity to our pre-K in our area. And I feel really strongly that's something to sit down and look at. Is this something that we could bring, no matter how small, into Scotia-Glenville? The equity part of it especially is very attractive to me, so we can get out into the community where people aren't able to access that. It's tremendously important. And third, and the least of all, engaging the public about the EV. I hear so many misconceptions about the EV mandate, and it's on us or where it's coming from. I feel it would be really worth a forum at least to talk to the public and correct misconceptions, educate on what we're trying to do, how fiscally responsible we're doing it, and then also we could do basic fact finding for the budget as well while we're out there. So those were the three I brought.
Emily?
I don't have anything specific written out yet because I wanted to see how the conversation went. I'm going to go back to those, the general goals, and just take, because I totally agree with you. I was going to say, but originally those were, but your email was so great, I didn't even bother trying to add to it. But we have in those general goals to ascertain the community's opinions and desires with respect to the operations of the school. Your job fair idea, we have to develop arrangements among civic and community organizations for sharing resources. To me, that screams job fair because we can take advantage of area businesses. So I'm going to kind of take all of those and kind of put them into one goal. And I also want to add that as we put these goals in place, that we be cautious about, I just keep hearing committees, and I feel like every time we form a committee, it's just, let's have Susan be on a committee, but anybody can be on a committee. So you and I could be a committee, so it doesn't always have to be Drew's doing this work and Susan's doing this work. I feel like if we discuss that a little more in detail, that there are ways to do it without a committee, or it could just be, we could start getting different people on there. Because I feel like it's always, well, okay, Susan's now she's gonna do 8 more things. And that wasn't ever what I intended, when I say, let's do this thing, it's.
And sometimes we have we say committee, but we could actually just poll, right? Like if I'm talking about different programs for education, for mental health, like we could talk to our students and say, what do you need? Who am I to say, these are the things that it says in the book that this will help you learn better. It might be better to hear from them to say, what do you, or our staff, like what do you see? You know what I mean? So it doesn't always have to be a committee. It could just be information downloads to look at different things. So it doesn't always have to be a committee.
So I'll work on finessing some of this a little bit.
I was also interested in continuing our second policy from last year because I feel like we didn't really get a push through as much as I would have liked. And like I said this one has to do with, for lack of a better word, the bullying issue. And we were really focusing on the middle school last year, but I think we need to expand that to also include the high school, because I think in the past few years there have been significant issues with the treatment of students that other students think are different for whatever reason. And I'm not sure, I feel like we need to get a better handle on what exactly is going on and what we can do to help these students, not just discipline-wise, but education-wise as well. So I would like to see that particular goal continue and expand it to the high school.
I would like to see it expanded out to the elementaries too, because from my perspective, I feel like that's kind of the cauldron where it comes from. And then we put all the different kiddos together in middle school, and it just generates a lot of what's coming there. But I see it as early as first graders. And that's something we focus on over at Glen Warden and bring in anti-bully programs. But to encompass the whole thing, get to maybe the root of it down in the elementary level, but before it becomes an issue up to those.
I'd like to see where we have this new web program, which I've said before that my 6th grader last year had a completely different experience starting middle school with everybody gelling together than my other 2 children. So I kind of would like to see where the data from web, like what is our bullying starting to look like after a couple years of that program? Because I'll tell you, it is night and day from experiences of starting middle school with that new program. So I think that web program is helping our anti-bullying, and it'll feed up into our high school. But as elementary school, Lincoln, we have Penguin Pride, it brings everything in, on anti-bullying. So I think that is where it starts, and we just need to start continuing that. If we've got it in the elementary, we're bringing it into the middle, and we do something in high school, I think we can feed her all the way through, and then maybe we'll start to, in a few years, start to see a difference. It's not going to be a 6-month fix.
No, I agree with that.
I think there's some effective stuff. I know last year when Officer Areola did her presentation at the middle school, I felt a large portion of that would have been effective at the at the elementary level too. There would be some retooling on her part, but that would have been an easy, effective tool to take down to the kiddos.
Is there a reason we couldn't bring web to the high school or web to the elementary schools? I mean, it seemed very successful last year.
Research that a bit more. I don't know enough about it to say. I don't know enough about the design of the program.
I mean, because we could, I mean, maybe we can't do web per se, but I'm sure we could figure out some or substance to do something similar. I mean, just even mentoring seniors for freshmen, or you know, fifth graders for kindergartners. That seems like something that we could potentially figure out.
Yeah.
Everything sounds good. We're just going to have to somehow or other cut back on the number of things that we want to concentrate on this year, and maybe some of them will have to wait till next year. You know, put them in the pipeline for that. But there's just so much to do, and I'm sitting here kind of laughing to myself because, you know, the expression "what goes around comes around." Just about everything we've talked about today, except for electric buses, has been dealt with by the board at some point in the past. And it's just, I mean, we've had a committee for grading and for weighted grades. We've had committees for universal pre-K. We've had committees for a lot of this stuff. And it's really too bad that things in education just keep changing to different priorities. And it seems like they change to different priorities before we ever finish up what we were working on and starting on. So I guess that's the biggest thing with me, is if whatever we choose to be the goals, I'd really like to see them completed.
And I think that goes with what Emily was saying, and I don't disagree. We have committees, but let's actually do it.
Right. Yeah, sometimes committee is secret code for, we're gonna put this here so it can die. Kind of thing. I'm not saying that's what we're doing, but that's just kind of what tends to happen
Or,
sometimes.
I mean, through no fault of anybody's,
Right.
like, you know, trying to get a committee together, trying to get the schedule, and I mean, even that alone takes a lot. So maybe some of our goals are things that we can do ourselves, like the policy issue. Kim and Pam are working on it. I'm more than happy to add my weighted grade policy to that and be a part of that. I would like it to be specifically outlined as one of the policies we're gonna work on this year. But to me, that doesn't necessarily take a committee to do it. I think we could actually do it and get it done.
I think part of it too is accountability, right? Holding us as a unit accountable to make sure that we're getting to our goals and not getting too wrapped up in other things, and just saying, where were we at in that? Did we have a conversation, like actually talking to each other?
I do want to say, though, that, for example, the weighted grade policy, I would be happy with my colleague to take that on this year and to bring you recommendations and perhaps the draft policy before this year is out. But I do think that we have to have input from the teachers who teach our kids.
No, I don't disagree with that. I'm not saying ignore everybody on the planet. I'm definitely not saying that at all, I promise.
So I say that knowing that some of these things, two of my colleagues, Niskayuna and Burnt Hills, we have a meeting set up to talk about a joint UPK amongst the three of us. So I can tell you we'll be doing some work there. There currently is a job fair. So maybe what would be helpful to you is if I took your suggestions tonight, went back and laid out for you what either I already know is going to start working towards that, or what currently exists. Would that be helpful?
Tremendous.
Very,
Yes.
very.
Yeah.
So why don't I do that as the next step?
Speaking of adding things to Susan's.
What did you say what were the other two schools? The Universal?
Niskayuna and Burnt Hills.
Niskayuna and Burnt Hills, thank you.
I'd be happy to do that.
Thanks.
Sure.
Thank you.
So I had two very easy goals that I'll probably get kicked out under the table for one of them in a second. But knowing that we've had for a decade now, I think, decreasing enrollment. We did a cohort study a couple of years ago and saw the trend where we're going, and it isn't pretty. So I think we've known that as a board, those of us that are on that board. So as I thought about it, I said, well, what can we do to help for our students with the options that we give them? Is it extra for graduation? Since we have such a smaller group and it is getting smaller, this is the lowest amount of kindergartners we've had in
136.
a very long time. So from a program standpoint, what do we have? Are we spread too thin sometimes with programs that we offer for our kids? And I say that because I look out and I see on Facebook, right, that we have 4 girls signed up to play modified field hockey. Well, how is that possible when we have 96 girls that are eligible to do that, right? Or we have 7 girls to play 5th and 6th grade lacrosse when we have 96 people. So is there a spot where we need to look at what do we offer our students and how can we do better with that? That's pathways to graduation, right? Whether it's to be a carpenter, a lawyer, or car salesman, right? So what pathways do we have for those kids that we have? And is at some point in time, and I know we all want choices, I'm not trying to be that guy, but is too much sometimes? With such a decreasing enrollment in the student body, do we have too many different things for students maybe to not focus on what could be right in front of them to help them out as they get younger, so we don't have to worry about kids and girls that want to play field hockey, but now we don't really know what we can do for them because we didn't have enough kids, or we don't have coaches for the running programs at elementary school because we're spread too thin. So I know that was long-winded, but looking at what we offer, can we do better with what we offer to our students in a decreasing enrollment? Unfortunately, unless I'm wrong, I think Shaker's the only school district local that is growing, including Shen, Saratoga. They're all decreasing at the same rate as we are. So that's a state problem. I think mandates have a lot to do with the decreasing enrollment in New York State. So that's a state problem. That's a big overarching, and I love it. That's a pretty big goal for us. But maybe in that we can look at, well, how do we handle that decreasing enrollment into being more effective with what we can offer our students? And then the other one, which is what I'll get kicked on, is the big C word, communication, right? So the board is, we've talked about this. I ran on this 7 years ago before, and I think for all the good that we've done in expanding some of the communication, there's still a lot out there that parents don't understand. I don't know how many of you all got text messages. Well, I know she did because she texted me about the bus schedule. Right? How many people didn't know, oh, there's no more bus schedule that goes out? It's an email, then you have to go onto a link, and some people got the email in a spam folder, and they didn't know what it was. Well, how can we change that? Right? How can we help figure out that problem? And that sparked our little portion of communication right there. We talk about forums. The board's talked about forums for every 7 years that I've been here now. But I think in order to do that, we have to find what's the hot button. So is that a survey that we send out to parents first? Is that a survey we sent out in October that says, hey, what's your hot button, Mr. Jones? What's concerning you right now with what's going on in Scotia-Glenville? Because to have a committee or to have a forum that you don't really know about, we've had numerous forums every year on budgets, on field projects, on code of conducts, and nobody really attends those. But I don't think it's their hot button. So I think we need to do better at communicating with our parents to find out, well, what concerns them and how can we as a board help those parents? How can we use Parent Square a little better than we do right now? Right? How can we have an email go out about a bus schedule that ends up in a junk folder? There's got to be something there. There's a disconnect there. So again, I know it's maybe a broad topic and shouldn't kick me, so that's good.
Why would I think we've all been saying the same thing since?
That's what I'm saying. We're all kind of just chatting about right? So it's how are we doing it though, right? So how can we actually we have better technology now than we did. Blackboard was horrible. The only thing Blackboard did is tell your school closed because of snow. Right? Parent Square is so much better. We can send anything out on Parent Square, from registering to be a cheerleader or soccer, or that there's a board meeting tonight. Well, how can we communicate better with that? I think there's some opportunities there to clarify some of these things that we deal with, especially the night before school text. Hey, I don't know when my kids get on the bus, coach. Can you help me? Hang on. Right? So I think there's some disconnect there. And I think we have a board now that is different than any board I've been on. We're all connected in different aspects of the community, where I think before maybe some of the boards weren't as connected as the 7 of us are. And I think we need to use that to our advantage right now to make a difference this year. So that's my goals. To add more to your plate. All right, so the plan will be to Susan to summarize our goals and then to send them out to us, and then we can take
We'll have discussion on the 23rd.
Third, in 2 weeks, the 23rd, we'll vote on our goals. Sound like a plan, everybody?
Yes.
Great, thank you. All right. Item number 6, reports, updates, legislative.
Okay, 2 things I thought were interesting. One, the Board of Regents, it's created a regulation that bans all realistic active shooter drills. And schools have to give a week's notice to families. They have to tell the students the activity is a drill, no props or actors. I do have to say though, I was unexpectedly included in a drill at Scotia-Glenville, and I feel like we follow all those already. So I'm not too concerned about that. The other one, it just was signed on last week. The governor signed it into law this past Thursday, which requires all school districts with a high school to establish a process to include at least one non-voting student member on the Board of Education. And they removed the requirement that the student seat has to be authorized by referendum of voters, so we have to move forward with that. It comes into effect this coming July. This is the first July after it was signed. That's obviously July 1, 2025. The only requirement that the state made was that the student has had to have been in the high school for at least 1 year. It doesn't say that we can't make additional requirements, whether it be an essay, whatever, I don't care. But the fact is we have to do it now. We don't have to have a vote in order to do it. So that's it.
Peter and I were actually having this discussion just earlier today about this. I can share this with you also. We have surveyed Capital Region school districts to see who currently has students, how those students are selected. There's a variety of different ways. I'd be happy to share that information.
Oh, that'd be great. I think it's exciting. I think it's a great idea. I know Emily's brought it up previously too, so it's nice to see that see it come into fruition.
I was gonna have that to ask for later, where are we in that conversation, but I read that too, and I thought that was interesting. I don't know how I feel about it being required for all schools, but.
Well, like all state mandates, we all should be
That's right.
All right. PTA Council.
Okay, so on the 25th, we have a council meeting at Glenwarden. Only thing we got coming up is this Friday the 13th. Oh, just realized that. Sorry. A couple of back-to-school socials at Lincoln, Glendale, and Glenwarden.
Friday night?
Friday night.
Okay.
13th.
No football practice. Okay.
Yeah. Nope. That's it.
Thank you. Nothing to report. Audit committee at this time?
October 7th, yep.
There we go. Policy committee, we just talked about that in our goals, unless there's something else that I'd like to add to the policy.
No, but there's policies in
All right. Board of Education goals we just spoke about. And budget. Anything this early on?
You have your audit October 7th.
There we go.
Thanks.
October 7th.
Thanks, Patrick.
All right. Moving on. Item number 7, it's time to select a voting delegate and an alternate to the 24 NYSBA annual business meeting. I know Kim did it last year.
I'll move that Kim be appointed to do it again this year.
Pam was quick on that one.
She was.
You told us you wanted it.
I don't mind
You
doing
did
it.
a great
I mean,
job
it was an
last
11-hour
year,
saga.
so-
It was not, but you know what? I figured if I got it through the last year, I'm willing to do it another year.
All right. A second for Kim?
Second.
All right. All in favor of Kim?
Aye.
Okay, Kim, thank you. Now we need a alternate in case something happens to Kim.
I would be fine doing that too.
And then I'll move to make Chad Roberts the alternate.
I'll
Beautiful.
second it.
Beautiful. All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Thank you both.
I would like to say the convention is coming up, and if everybody can look at like the classes that are going to be offered, and then for those of us who are attending, if there's something you guys say, hey, can somebody go to this, or I would be interested in this, maybe we can bring back some information. I know we all pick different classes that we're going to take, but if there's something that somebody who couldn't attend would be like to know something, then one of us could probably take that class.
Speaking of a conference, since so many of us are going and Susan's going, I know we had a meeting scheduled for that time. Are we able to talk about changing the meeting date since so many of us would be going to the conference?
Or they can meet without us, they'll still have a majority.
sure it would be a light agenda that night, but there would be 4 of us here. Rick would be here. Drew will be here.
Well, just hope that nobody has another issue.
Correct. If anyone's sick, anyway. I'll be here because I leave the next morning, so, yeah. If something
Certainly,
changes,
I'm
we
not
can.
opposed to doing that, Kim.
I guess I'm concerned that, yes, right now you've got 4 people, but you never know what's gonna happen, and it seems like it's better to plan ahead than
Why
plan
don't
spin it. But
all
that's
of
just me.
you let Mr. Talbot know if you would be able to attend on the 28th, is that the next Monday, instead. So if you could let him know, and we'll look at the, instead of October 21st, if you could do a board meeting on October 28th, the following Monday, and then we'll know if it looks like we'd have more people on that Monday than the other Monday.
One question, this is going backwards. I noticed on the booklet for the NISBA, it says we'll go to a vote at 4 p.m. on October 10th. But it says here that it'll be October 20th through the 22nd?
The
Right, so
convention
that's the
is.
convention those
Yeah,
days.
but the
The
vote
vote is
for, yeah,
before.
is the 10th.
Right.
Select voting delegate and alternate for the business meeting and transport to send to convention.
So before the next meeting, you're going to take your resolutions. Jill's going to create a spreadsheet as she does every year. You're each going to weigh in on where you stand on the resolution, and then we will talk about them at the next meeting.
Emily, and this is what happened last year, is they did the same thing. We had this meeting ahead of time, so all our votes were in, and then the votes were presented at the conference of the 20.
Okay, so
20th
whoever's
to the
doing this though,
22nd.
are you gonna, is this the thing where you sit in front of the camera until midnight?
Yes.
And is that on the 10th or is that during?
That's on the
that's the
10th. That's on the
Okay,
10th. Me,
all right.
me voting on behalf of the
Okay.
board's the 10th. The presentation of what the final decisions are is during the conference.
All right.
It used to
Fantastic.
be at conference,
Yeah.
and then since COVID, they moved it to 2 separate,
It's
business
just the
meetings
wording a
separate.
little, okay, I get it now.
That's like the law portion of it is the 2 days before the convention, so they kind of broke it up now.
So our game plan is that Jill sends you out by the end of this week, hopefully, the resolution. You decide whether you support or don't support the resolution. You fill that in. When we come on the 23rd, I'm having trouble with that date. When we come on the 23rd, anything that we have, we don't have majority agreement on, we have as a discussion item to come to an agreement here so that Kim knows what we're going to vote on. So you've got the resolutions in your board packet,
Right.
the booklet, and then Jill will reduce them to a spreadsheet with a place for each of you to weigh in. Okay, but you will need to do that before the next meeting.
Correct.
Giving
So Jill
enough
can-
time
Give Jill the right to vote,
Right.
right. So now as we get that, the beginning of that section, just so we're all clear, because it's been a little screwy last year, the beginning of that is what NISBA is in favor of for us. So we either agree with those or we disagree. The back portion of that is the portion that NISBA is not in agreement with. That doesn't mean we have to agree with them or not, right? So just so, because I think there was a little confusion last year on the yeses and the nos. So the beginning is we agree with them, and the back portion is, and we agree with them that we oppose this as well. So we're all on the same page there.
Wait,
We agree the first half.
Right.
would we agree with the policy or we agree with their recommendation?
The
We
recommendation.
agree that the second half should be a no.
Correct.
We think that NISBA did the right thing by saying no.
So we're not voting
So
on
we're
whether or
saying
not you
no.
agree with the policy, you're voting on whether or not you agree with their recommendation?
No, we're voting on whether we agree with the policy.
Okay, we're doing the thing where we're saying two different things again.
Right. NISBA's putting a policy that they say that they approve or they disapprove at the very back of it. We say we either agree or don't agree as 7 individuals.
And then we go with the majority.
Right.
That we agree or don't agree with the policy or with the
Yes.
recommendation?
Yes, the policy that NISBA put in front of us.
Their proposal,
Yeah,
not what,
policies.
NISBA has nothing to do with what our decision is, except to give us information and help us understand where they're coming from. We're saying yes or no on each one of these propositions.
This is why I'm going to talk about it tonight because we were a little confused last year as we got close to that time to do it. So
And Jill, you may have done this last year and I don't remember. Do you highlight the ones where we're not in majority? And if, you know what I'm saying? Like,
final spreadsheet?
yes. And if not, can you highlight them?
I
Okay.
think she
It's
did
a
that.
green and red and.
Yeah.
I'm thinking more of like a yellow highlighter across for my bad eyes. Is that possible to do that? That would be awesome, thank you. Because I felt like that was another thing we were doing, trying to do the lines and figure out which ones we were a majority on or not.
And that's due when?
Oh, Jill will get us the spreadsheet.
Yeah, Jill, when do you want it by? You tell us when you want it by to give you time to do what you need to do.
Be the Thursday before that?
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
So it's the 18th.
So September 18th? Okay.
And there's no reason, since you already have the booklet, that you can't start doing it. I always went, I've always done, I already did like the first half dozen of it. So,
Yeah.
and then we just put the yes or no's on the sheet for,
That's great. Thank you.
All right, any other questions on that? All right, if not, can I get a motion to adopt the district code of conduct?
I'd like to make a motion to adopt the District Code of Conduct, elementary, middle school, and senior high school handbooks for 2024, 2025.
Thank you, and a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Emily.
Can I ask that, can we divide out the high school, because we made suggested changes to the high school one? Maybe that should be done separately because of the changes, or
With the changes.
re-say it, so we say with the changes requested?
yeah, it's changed, right?
Yeah, we can approve it as changed with recommended changes.
Okay.
Yes. Any other questions on that or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstain? So moved. If I get a motion, please, to approve the 24-25 girls wrestling merger.
I'll motion to approve the 2024-2025 girls wrestling merger.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you. Any questions or discussions on this? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstained? So moved. If I can get a motion to approve the revised readings, 10, 11, 12, 13,
I'll
please.
move that we approve for first reading policies 4327, 5510.1, Appendix AA, Policy 5520, and Policy 5530 as submitted.
Thank you. Second.
Second.
Do you have any questions or comments on this?
I had some questions on some of the policies. With respect to the student evaluation, it says that the parent must sign a contract that they'll follow the district policy. I don't want to make an assumption, but isn't the district policy based on state law?
Yes.
Okay, so I just want to make sure that, so really we're just saying you got to comply with state law. All right, and then my other question is, say the parent wants to use a doctor that costs $75. We only go up to $50. Is the parent allowed to pay that difference in price?
I believe so.
Okay.
As long as the doctor is certified and appropriate for the evaluation.
Okay. And then with the physical restraint policy, it has a section called aversive intervention. Does that, and that it's not appropriate, does that include like constant screaming or other loud noises? Because it talks in the footnote about what aversive intervention does not address, like loud, firm commands, which makes sense. But it doesn't say with respect to, I mean, there's a difference between a loud, firm command and somebody constantly screaming at you.
Correct.
So is the constant screaming or loud noises, is that considered a part of the aversive intervention that's not appropriate?
Correct.
Okay, sorry, I know I got circled around, I apologize. Okay. I think that was all I had, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstain? So moved. If I get a motion, please, for the MOAs 14 through 23, please.
I'll move that we approve the memorandum of agreement by and between the Scotia-Glenville Central School District and Scotia-Glenville Teachers Association as submitted. Yeah.
Thank you. And a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions or discussions on any of these?
I do. Could you just talk about the therapeutic crisis intervention and what that does, with these training you're doing, all of that?
Therapeutic crisis intervention is a recognized, I hate to use the word treatment, that sounds too formal. It is strategies that were created through Cornell University to de-escalate violence in children and to find alternate ways to have kids comply. So our TCIS trainers are trained so they can train other staff. We are hopeful that eventually everyone will have TCIS training because de-escalation strategies are good with all kids, not just kids with special needs. Although there is a component for physical restraint, which is why we also have physical restraint policy, that is the last possible option. So there are lots of steps in between someone's behavior and where we would ever apply physical restraint, unless we had two kids going at it in the hallway and we might step between them. But TCIS really lays all of that out for people. And technically you would not be using physical restraint unless it was part of a child's IEP and there was an actual plan for using it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And are 21 and 22, are these on here because we're clarifying the language from what it was last year?
No, they just have to be approved annually.
Okay.
It's an annual cycle.
Okay, got it.
Did we go all the way to 21 and 22? Is that what we went to?
Up to
We went to 23.
23. Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, then I have one more question. Is 23 the one because of the homeroom? Pete did a great job. Peter did a great job talking about the homeroom. Why does it require an agreement?
Do you want to address that? Did you work with the association on the?
Yes, we worked with the Teachers Association on this. In the past, when a teacher had a certain number of preps, which is outside of the norm, they could be relieved from homeroom duty. That's no longer an option, so we're trying to find a compromise, and we were able to find one that worked for both sides.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstain? So moved. Can I get a motion, please, to approve tuition for a non-resident student?
I'd like to make a motion to approve tuition for a non-resident student.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Kim. Anyone have any questions on this discussion?
Was this a person who was a student with us, and now it's just circumstances beyond their control? They aren't in the district now.
They're trying to move back in, but have been unable to secure housing.
Okay,
So this is pertaining to one particular student. This isn't a blanket policy that we
No,
will-
this is a specific student
Okay.
for one
Okay.
specific. Any student who was coming here as a non-resident student, I would bring to you.
Okay.
So this student comes back into the district, like, I was looking at, does it change or refund?
Correct.
There's a refund, okay.
Well, right, if they came, they're paying, I believe, by the half semester, half of the year up front in the hopes that they'll be here by the end of first semester,
Okay. Thank you.
not first quarter. But yes, Carnegie, whenever they get here, we would refund money. Absolutely.
Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstain? So moved. We get a motion, please, to request an overnight field trip for the cross-country boys and girls team.
I will make a motion that we approve the request for an overnight field trip for the senior high school boys and girls cross-country team as submitted.
Thank you. And a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Pam. Questions or comments on this? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstain? So moved. Take a motion for resolution number 26, please.
Make a motion to approve resolution determining the proposed action and a type 2 action for purposes of the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act for building and site improvements for said school district.
Thank you. a second?
1 second.
Thank you. Questions? Comments?
I do. Drew, can you remind me when we did receive this information and reviewed it?
During the budget process, there's a $100K annual project. It's called Interfund Transfer to Capital Fund, and we do small projects and get building aid on them. This is that project.
Okay.
It's basically auditorium carpeting in the middle school will be replaced this year.
Could we, when we get these kind of things in the future, can you remind us when we had the lab, when we had it addressed to us, just so I could look at it to remind myself, because I'm getting old. Thanks.
Any other questions? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstained? So moved. Can I get a motion for resolution to accept an appropriate gift donation for various community members in memory of Nicholas Criscone?
Make a motion to accept an appropriate gift and donation from various community members in memory of Nicholas Criscone.
Thank you. Second, please.
Second.
Thank you both. Anyone have any questions on this? Comments? Yes, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstained? So moved. Can I get a motion, please, for resolutions 2829, gift donations from Friends of Music?
I'll make a motion that we accept and appropriate the gift and donation from the Scotia-Glenville Friends of Music for the Crush bass, which I don't know what that is, but I actually approved this, and the digital piano as submitted.
Thank you. A second?
Second.
Thank you. Questions, comments on this one? Either one? Not all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed or abstained?
I don't know if I should. I'm on the board now for Friends of Music, so I'm thinking I should abstain. No? I can still vote for it? Then I vote for it.
There you go.
I think you already voted for it when we approved it, but
Right.
again, I'm fuzzy. I don't remember anything about a Crush bass amp. I just knew it was an amp.
So moved. If I get a motion for resolution number 30, please.
I move that the Board of Education appoint its president, vice president, and superintendent to approve the appointment of an impartial hearing officer in between scheduled meetings to comply with the required regulatory timelines as submitted.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Any questions, comments on this? Not all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstained? So moved. Motion, please, for communications.
I'll move communications A through I. Also move staffing 1 through 38 with the exception of 36, and the placement of students with disabilities as submitted.
Thank you.
And then I'd like to point out to you folks that on the memo agenda at your basis tonight, at your places, number 33, we corrected 2 of the salaries. Lisa Pola for $500 and Anita Bruinsma for $250. There was inadvertently a 4 instead of a $sign. So those are corrected on the memo that's in the agenda that's in front of you. But they were incorrect in your original paperwork.
Okay, thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you. Any other questions or discussions on all of that?
Yes, I see that you have an asterisk for those who have not finalized their clearance yet. What are we doing? And I'm assuming that you're talking fingerprinting and all of that. So what are we doing to, I'm assuming we're going to let these people start working if we vote to approve, or they already have because we hit of August. And if so, what are we doing to make sure that we
They
don't have any
can't be
concerns?
alone with anyone,
Okay.
and they must always be with another coach.
And my other question, and maybe is it in the section about the tutors and the mentors? The tutors and the mentors, I wanted to ask about what that is, how many we have, what do they need for, those that kind of thing.
Mentors are assigned to new teachers here. It's under our Teachers Association contract and mentoring program. It's run by Christina Darkangelo Wood and Mr. Arquette together, and the number of mentors per year depends on the number of teachers we have who need mentoring. tutors are for home and hospital instruction, so the board policy that we were looking at earlier this evening, as well as sometimes if we have superintendent's suspensions, which we don't have right this minute. We also have a couple of students who don't have programs at this point, so I know that we are looking at tutors through contractual agencies for them.
Thank you.
So again, it kind of depends on need more than anything, Kim.
Understood.
Anything else? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstained? So moved.
Okay, I will move number 36 now for the junior varsity assistant, modified assistant, those three from football, and the three varsity and modified volleyball coaches as submitted.
All right. And a second, please.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any questions on any of those? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstain?
I'm sorry, I have a question. What's a half step?
It's literally half of what that step would be if you were, so those two half-step folks who are doing varsity together, if only one of them was doing it, they'd get that total sum.
Got it, okay.
Good question. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstain?
Lastly, I will move the football voluntary varsity assistant as submitted.
Second.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any questions on this? All in favor? Anyone opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Aye. Anyone abstain?
I abstain.
So moved. 6-1. 0-6-1. All right, moving on. Routine business, treasurer's report. Any questions about the treasurer's report? Need a motion and a second for the bid, please.
I'll move that we, Board of Education award a bid for transportation for sporting events, field trips, and other miscellaneous transportation needs for the 24-25 school year to Durham School Services.
Thank you. Second, please.
Second.
Thanks, Jen. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstain? So, yes, Pam did. Yeah. So, other business, review the board presentation schedule for 24-25.
I did
I
not
will be able
get
to
this.
complete it tonight based on our discussion, so I'm gonna just bring it back.
And then the Gazette article on Rickendahl.
Two of them, yes.
Anybody have any questions on that? Kind of dealt with that a couple hours ago. All right, at this time, I'll open up a second hearing of privilege of the floor. If anyone would like to address the board, please just state your name, address, and adhere to our 5-minute policy and avoid from using anyone by name. If not, I will close the second hearing of privilege of the floor. Thank everyone for attending tonight and ask for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
And a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstained?